What if the true battle is not over land, but over who controls the story? And what if no one is ever truly safe from the next twist? Throughout history, the fate of entire nations has often hinged not just on the clash of armies, but on the unseen war for narrative control. From the Trojan Horse, which changed the course of ancient Troy through deception and surprise, to the fall of the Berlin Wall, where the story of freedom spread faster than any border guards could react, it is clear that the story behind the conflict can be as powerful as any weapon. In the Ukrainian city of Kherson, a single night shattered the illusion of security. Russian paratroopers, trained for months in secrecy and speed, descended unexpectedly, catching defenders and residents off guard. Until that moment, all eyes had been fixed on slow, grinding battles elsewhere, near Pokrovsk and Sumy, where the front lines seemed clear and predictable. Media reports, think tanks, and even seasoned military analysts felt confident in their forecasts. But suddenly, a new front erupted, rewriting every expectation. Consider how, in June of 1940, France's famed Maginot Line, a marvel of fortifications, was bypassed by the German Blitzkrieg in a matter of days. French commanders believed their lines were secure, only to be outflanked by innovation and speed. The same sense of shock reverberated in Kherson, as Russian airborne forces bypassed static defenses, moving with a swiftness that had not been witnessed since the earliest months of the conflict. Gone was the expectation of a slow and steady advance. Instead, a lightning-fast airborne assault shattered Ukrainian confidence in their southern stronghold. In a matter of hours, what had seemed like an impregnable defense was exposed, with the sense of safety in Kherson vanishing like morning mist at sunrise. Families who had slept believing in stability awoke to the thunder of helicopters, the crackle of gunfire, and the chilling realization that reassurance could evaporate overnight. This one move overturned assumptions not just about local security, but about the entire war. Ukrainian commanders, once confident in their lines, had to scramble, redeploying reserves from already threatened regions, racing to plug gaps that had appeared out of nowhere. The stakes were not only about territory. Morale itself was suddenly on a knife's edge. Why does this matter beyond the battlefield? Because, like the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, it shows how rapidly the story, and the reality, of war can change. One unexpected blow can unravel months of meticulous planning and billions of dollars in support. The shockwaves ripple outward. Alliances tremble, economies wobble, and public trust is shaken to its core. If we ignore how swiftly both reality and narrative can shift in modern conflict, we risk being blindsided by the next upheaval, no matter where we stand. Leaders, investors, citizens, all can be caught in the undertow of a single, unexpected event. But how did this airborne strike catch everyone unprepared? And what does it reveal about both sides' strategies? The answers shape not only the next moves on the ground, but the entire narrative of the war. Kherson was never just another city. For months, it had embodied southern stability and the resilience of Ukraine itself. A bastion where defenders and civilians alike could believe the front was holding. The city's role was not unlike that of Stalingrad during World War II, a symbol whose defense or fall carried meaning far beyond its borders. Its defenses were layered and positions fortified. Trenches, concrete bunkers, anti-tank barriers, and networks of supply lines crisscrossed the region. Morale ran high, reinforced by repeated reports of successful defenses and the arrival of Western aid. Kherson was proof Ukraine could stand firm, a symbol that reassured its people and inspired allies on the other side of the globe. Then, in a single night, everything changed. Russian airborne troops executed a classic paratrooper assault, reminiscent of the German Fallschirmjäger tactics during the Battle of Crete in 1941, moving under cover, striking at command hubs, and flooding the city's streets with alarming speed. Their attack was so swift and silent that it blindsided not only local defenders, but even analysts half a world away. The shock went deeper than a mere change of territory. The assault shattered the fragile sense of safety that Kherson represented. Emergency orders crackled across radios as reserves were rushed in from already threatened regions. Ukrainian command was forced to make impossible choices, stretching thin lines even thinner and leaving new gaps exposed, much as Soviet commanders did during the initial months of Operation Barbarossa, when German advances came so quickly that entire armies were surrounded before they could react. But the real danger was psychological. The fall, or even the breach, of Kherson hammered morale, sowed panic, and sent tremors through Ukrainian ranks and their international partners. If Kherson, the fortress of the south, could buckle overnight, what hope remained for any stronghold? The city's symbolic significance transformed military defeat into a crisis of faith, both at home and abroad. This battle was never just about land. It was about belief, in victory, in defense, in the future. With Kherson under siege, that belief was suddenly at risk, and the entire narrative of southern stability began to unravel. Allies in distant capitals, counting on a stable front, found themselves questioning their own assumptions as news of the assault broke across their screens. Yet, it was the sheer speed and precision of the Russian assault that truly stunned the world. To understand how they achieved this, we need to look closer. Let's break down the tactics behind the airborne operation and how Ukrainian defenses were overwhelmed so quickly. When two fronts give way at once, panic overtakes preparation. Every gaze locked onto Kherson, where a sudden Russian airborne strike smashed through forecasts. Yet even as shock rippled south, fractures appeared in the northeast near Kharkiv. Battalions retreated, strongholds deserted, the collapse spreading beyond the battlefield, shaking the bedrock of security itself. Observers quickly suspected something deeper. With Ukrainian command focused eastward, Russia delivered a sharp blow in the south, a move now seen as orchestrated. The synchrony was no accident. It was a deliberate attempt to force Ukraine into constant reaction. This echoes the famed double envelopment at Cannae in 216 BC, when Hannibal's Carthaginian army struck from multiple directions, overwhelming the Roman legions and rewriting the history of warfare. This simultaneous upheaval left Ukrainian leadership reeling. Instead of measured counteraction, choices were made in the rush of crisis. Instinct replaced order, exposing weaknesses for all to witness. The mental strain was immediate and severe. Inside Kiev, emergency meetings dragged into the early hours, directives shifted hourly, and the city's nerves frayed. Armored vehicles rolled down central boulevards, not to project strength, but to stem a crisis spreading faster than anyone could manage. The atmosphere was reminiscent of London during the Blitz, when nightly bombings kept officials and civilians on perpetual edge, unable to predict where the next blow would fall. On the information front, turmoil surged. Ukrainian news outlets hesitated, aiming to calm panic. But as videos emerged showing unfamiliar emblems in Kherson, uncertainty spilled into the open, confirming that events were spinning beyond control. The information vacuum was filled by rumors and speculation, echoing the chaotic days of the Arab Spring, when social media outpaced official statements and shaped the course of revolutions. At moments like this, the danger is not only territorial loss. The collapse of two fronts can unravel the very cohesion of command, breed suspicion, and sap the ability to improvise. Trust, morale, and initiative hang in the balance, as vital as any contested border. The question now looms: what breaks first when both military and psychological defenses start to crumble? With chaos encroaching from every direction, Ukrainian leaders must find a foothold, or risk losing more than ground. The next moves will decide whether this crisis deepens or a new resistance forms. The world has seen such moments before, when the Wehrmacht's sudden drive to the Meuse in May 1940 forced the Allies into the desperate evacuation at Dunkirk. Choices made under pressure can define not just battles, but the fate of nations. What if a single defeat today triggers tomorrow's disaster? The shock from Kherson is already rumbling far beyond its own front lines. When one region falls, the breach exposes its neighbors, each breakthrough turning the next outpost into a target, making the defense of every remaining area not just harder, but maybe impossible. This is the domino effect, live, and relentless. Military analysts warn the sudden Russian airborne operation has done more than spread panic. It has begun a chain reaction. Every supposedly solid position is now in doubt. Every plan is being torn up and redrawn, minute by minute, as commanders scramble to adjust. Western capitals are paying close attention. As word spreads, think tanks and governments rush to reassess not just aid packages, but their faith in Ukraine's ability to hold. Billions of dollars invested, years of political capital, suddenly seem at risk. What happens if the battlefield's logic changes overnight? Can outside support keep pace, or does the ground shift too fast? In Kyiv, anxiety explodes into open fear. Senior military leaders, top ministers, even the president face a tidal wave of pressure and blame. Emergency meetings stretch into the early hours. Behind closed doors, desperate orders are given. Hold the line, restore trust. Explain the inexplicable to a public growing more anxious by the hour. The numbers are grim. If Kharkiv, Ukraine's vital northeastern stronghold, falls, the entire front could unravel. Forces already stretched thin might be forced to surrender ground or retreat, with little time to regroup. The threat of total collapse, once unthinkable, now feels present, as real as any shelling or drone. The stakes only multiply. For Ukraine and its allies, the danger is not just military defeat. Billions in investment could vanish, Western alliances might fracture, and global credibility hangs in the balance. If trust fails here, influence fades everywhere. The world remembers the fall of Saigon in 1975, when the sudden collapse of South Vietnam sent shockwaves through global politics, reshaping alliances for decades. Amid the chaos, the illusion of control slips away. Everything shifts so quickly that even the best-prepared leaders struggle to keep up. Is this only the beginning of a wider unraveling, a shockwave with consequences no one can stop? As the dust settles, all eyes turn to the next vulnerable region. The true scope of the crisis, and its global fallout, is only just becoming clear. The world understands that the stakes are not just regional, but global. Energy markets, food supplies, refugee flows, and geopolitical balances hang in the balance. In modern warfare, speed and surprise do more than breach defenses. They topple expectations. What unfolded in Kherson stands as a masterclass in initiative. Russian airborne forces did not simply force their way forward. They materialized where few thought possible, moving with a tempo not seen in many months. This was not about sheer firepower. Instead, it was unpredictability wielded as a weapon, forcing experienced defenders onto the back foot. Initiative like this changes everything. Even the strongest fortifications can be outflanked or rendered obsolete when one side rewrites the rules in real time. Kherson had been considered a safe rear area, layered with logistics and confidence. Abrupt, targeted strikes from within turned that sense of security into chaos almost overnight. Yet, it is not just soldiers or vehicles that matter. These days, information spreads faster than any tank or helicopter. As word of the airborne assault leaked out, waves of panic and doubt swept through command posts, newsrooms, and public forums. In such moments, perception becomes as valuable as any ground gained. A single well-timed shock can unravel months of careful planning, leaving leaders and analysts scrambling to adjust. That is the real force of surprise in the modern era. Surprise undermines old strategies, exposing how slow-moving doctrines are left behind. Traditional playbooks cannot keep pace when both the tempo of war and the speed of information break from the familiar. For those of us observing from afar, this is more than a distant battle. It is a lesson in how quickly the landscape beneath us can shift, politically, economically, and psychologically. Grasping these dynamics sharpens our understanding of the news, prompts us to question official stories, and prepares us for security threats that no longer follow a predictable script. The gravest danger? Trusting in yesterday's assumptions. Whether you are a policymaker, an investor, or an ordinary citizen, it is all too easy to be caught off guard when conflict evolves faster than our expectations. The critical moments usually happen before we notice the rules have changed. So, what can be done to avoid being blindsided by the next twist? First, leaders must build flexibility into their strategies, preparing for scenarios that defy past patterns. Second, information flows must be safeguarded and diversified, so that rumors do not fill the void left by slow official communication. Third, alliances must be reinforced not just with money and weapons, but with trust and transparency, so that when one front wobbles, the entire support structure does not collapse. For ordinary citizens, vigilance is key. History teaches us to look beyond headlines and question the narratives that shape our understanding. Just as the sudden fall of Constantinople in 1453 stunned Europe and forced new political and economic realities, so too can a single city's fall today change the fate of nations. As events in Kherson continue to unfold, the world watches for the next shock. What comes next may redefine not just the battlefield, but the entire trajectory of the conflict. If the map can be redrawn in a single night, what else might we not be prepared for? Only yesterday, Kherson's front lines seemed fixed. Now, they are broken. One bold, unexpected move has not just upended military plans, but fractured the stories we trusted. This is not only about territory changing hands. We are watching surprise and speed rewrite the rules in real time. In modern conflict, victory goes not just to those with the most firepower, but to those who seize initiative and control the narrative. The risks reach everyone. When facts on the ground shift within hours, headlines can mislead, and old certainties vanish. If we cling to yesterday's story, we may overlook the tremors that foreshadow tomorrow's upheaval. So, are we truly reading the events in front of us, or just reading yesterday's news? On a battlefield where information and action are inseparable, failing to challenge our assumptions could mean missing the next turning point. The battle for Kherson was not just a military gamble, it was a test of psychological warfare that will shape future conflicts. As the dust settles, only one thing is certain. What we know is already outdated. And as the world holds its breath, the story is still being written. Only by staying alert, questioning the obvious, and preparing for the unexpected can we hope to shape, not just survive, the next twist in history.